This is Dave of Live Life Loud, the Decibelic podcast, and you're listening to Pods Like Us with Marv.
Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I'm speaking with Joshua Rodhe and Mike Bosch from Total Nonsense with Josh and Bosch. Thanks for being here, guys. How are you?
Wonderful.
Thanks, Marv, for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And so, how did you both meet each other?
Josh, you want to tell that story, or you want me to tell it?
Go ahead.
So,
I mean, you are the boss.
Oh, your name comes first. Right, you've got top billing. Josh and I work in the automotive service industry, and we work for two companies that merged about 3 years ago. And Josh came into our department, and so we actually met for the very first time via telephone.
Okay.
We were asked to kind of speak ahead of time. Josh was, I think, weighing his options, determining if he wanted to come onto our department or if he wanted to go to another department. And obviously, once he talked to me, it was a clear-cut decision, right, Josh?
No brainer. Easy.
Yep.
Yeah. And it was funny because in that conversation, we were just getting to know each other. Josh had mentioned that he wanted to do a podcast. And I had never heard a podcast at that point, nor did I understand that the quote-unquote average person could host or make a podcast. I thought you had to be a famous person, it'd be like somebody saying, "I'm gonna start my own television show." In my frame of reference at that point, I was like, "How does that work?" Right? And so that's how we met, right, Josh?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's been a magical experience ever since. Marv.
I'm trying to think of a really good analogy because it's somewhere between a best friendship and a car accident all at the same time. It just like
that's probably
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's
If this was a video, you'd see my face then. Go on, Josh.
I was just saying it has been great, and it was interesting when we met each other early on. We had a connection early, right? I mean, we're co-workers originally, and It was clear that we were going to work together and work together well. We had no idea that this was going to happen at the time, obviously, but I don't know. We both like to chat with people and have similar energy and enthusiasm about just life in general. And so even though we're very different people, I think our personalities match up really well.
Yeah.
It's like a friendship that was always meant to be. You just didn't meet each other sooner.
Yeah, I would say that's a great way to describe it. And the fact that our personalities play off each other so well made it easy, right? I mean, we just blended.
And I think one of the things that really helps is neither of us take ourselves too seriously. Like, we're okay being, at the wrong end of the joke. Like, I love to make a joke, but if you know how some people don't like to be made fun of, if it's a funny joke, even if it's at my expense, it's a funny joke. Like, I've got no problems with that one bit. And I think Josh is very similar, because on our show, Josh is a really good sport. I dig at him pretty good about the fact that he lives in the far north part of the United States, and I live in Texas, and so we don't get to see each other in person. We speak on the phone, we video chat probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week, right? And so we have a really good relationship, and then of course we have this podcast that we do after hours. So we've definitely spent a lot of time together over the past 4 or 5 months as we've been working through this.
So that answers the next one on my list then, doesn't it? Are you the sort of people who frequently group together to chat then in, any event? Will you always go towards each other?
That is such an interesting question, Marv, and it honestly is something that I don't want to say I think of a lot, but every once in a while I'll think about the fact that I don't have a lot of friends outside of work. I know you probably think, Mike Bosch, you're such a dynamic personality. People are probably drawn to you like flies on a lamp, right?
I really tried not to laugh at that. I really tried. I'm sorry.
I tried to put that in every episode.
Yeah, I know. I hold back as long as possible.
But most of the people that are my friends are people that I work with. Now, I'm fortunate because I've worked for the same company for 24 years, so I haven't had to find a new group of friends in a while. But I do think that if Josh and I were at a social gathering, we would probably.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Right, Josh?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the show then is basically an extension of the natural rapport and way that you chat with each other anyway, then I'm guessing, when you FaceTime each other or however you contact each other. And even whenever you do meet in person, it's just a natural, that's how you both are.
Yep. Josh, tell Marv what our original concept was for how we were going to prepare for each episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so before we get into that, Marv, I mean, to your point, before we started the podcast, we'd have team meetings, and our supervisor would point out, hey, guys, you are witnessing what a podcast between Mike and Josh would be right here on our team meeting. And that's pretty much it, right?
I'm back. Dear me, where did we go? Where were we?
Josh was talking about the teams meetings.
Yep, so you're on about the team meetings then, which included your previous guest.
Yeah. Heidi was one of our guests, and she was the one who always talked about, hey, you guys are witnessing what these two would do if somebody gave them a couple of microphones and the ability to broadcast, which apparently is really easy to do. You just go buy a couple of microphones and sign up for Buzzsprout, and you're good to go. So our original... before we started getting guests, we really didn't know how this was going to go. And so, best laid plans, you put together what you think is something that you can perform. And our original, we total nonsense. We want to give people 30 minutes of just, nonsense, right? So just some fun, some humor, something to laugh at, nothing too serious. And so we each... we're going to set aside some time right before we got together and come up with some nonsense that happened this week. And then we would just point blank ask each other, what kind of nonsense did you get into this week? And see what the other one comes up with, right? And then we would just go from there on this exact kind of conversation. And that was really the original concept.
Yeah, the only criteria was we weren't supposed to tell the other person what happened prior to the recording. We wanted the conversation to be genuine. So on our pilot episode, where I had inadvertently made a phone call during an opportune time, that actually happened to me that week, and I, as much as it pained me, Marv, I didn't tell a soul that story until we recorded it live. And I remember when we were leading into it, Josh asking, "Is this nonsense?" And I was like, "Oh, it's definitely nonsense. It's definitely nonsense." And I can't tell you how many times I've been asked since then, "Do you still take your phone to the bathroom with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I put it in airplane mode, but I do still take it with me.
Nature of the beast, I have to answer the phone when I'm at work, so yes.
Yeah. It's funny.
So what had you actually listened to no podcast at all then, Mike, before you started making the show?
So I think that's a great question. So prior to Josh saying to me he wanted to, no, I had never listened to one.
Wow.
And then what happened is our supervisor, Heidi, had originally assigned us a book. We were doing a quote-unquote book club. So we would meet via conference call every other week, and we would talk about a book. And then when that world event that we do not talk about happened, and everybody changed, and everybody else in the world who wasn't already on virtual meetings or whatever were introduced to it, she assigned us podcasts. And so we had a podcast. We would meet every other week on Teams, because our department is spread across the country, and we would talk about what we're excited about, and then everybody'd go around the room, and then we would talk about the podcast. And then like Josh said, one week there was a particular podcast, and I really wish we could probably go back in time and find out exactly which podcast it was, but there was a podcast, and it was two guys talking, and Heidi literally said, "This is what a podcast would sound like if Mike and Josh did a podcast." And it was like that light bulb moment. I knew Josh wanted to do a podcast. I didn't really know anything about it, but we had gotten ourselves pretty familiar with speaking in front of people and doing things that we hadn't had to do or done in the past. And I was like, how hard could it be? Right? Let's just figure it out. And boy, did I have learned there's a lot to it. I mean, Josh is right, a couple microphones and a subscription, but it's a lot of time management. It's a lot of juggling some things, working around calendars, but super fun. I mean, so much fun. Josh, I don't want to speak for you, but I am having so much fun.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's great. And Mike's absolutely right. It's work for sure. Mike puts in more work than I do. I can tell you that right now. Mike puts in a lot of work. But it's, just the thought process that goes into it. The calendars are one of the really tough ones for us because we both have very busy schedules and we're opposite sides of America, right? North and south, and we're thousands of miles away. So like coordinating all of this gets really, really tangly, and we're getting better. We stubbed our toe a couple of times.
Yeah, and now that we're having guests on, even though our show is quote unquote nonsense, we want to be respectful of the person who comes on, right? And we're there to, like Josh said, it's more of just a distraction from the stuff that's dominating the news, that's just beating everybody down, no matter what side of the fence you're on, right? It is what it is. And so we want to be respectful of that. So we do a little bit of research. I have a lot of fun. I do some internet stalking, and we come up with the fun facts. And we've actually come up with some really, really fun facts. And I was telling Josh, I'm really looking forward to an episode that we have coming up. We have it all planned. I woke up in the middle of the night with Josh like 5 weeks ago with this great idea. Marv, I don't know if you've ever had this happen. You've ever had a dream or an idea, and you wake up from your dream, and it's crystal clear in your mind, but as the hour, 2 hours goes on, everything becomes a blur, right? You can't remember the details, right? Well, I had this moment, but I had the presence of mind to grab my phone, and I documented it in the notes. So I have everything written down as it happened. And so both Josh and my wives are in education. My wife's a school teacher, and Josh's wife writes grants for colleges. And so they have an education background, and this is an education-related idea.
Yep.
So my wife has agreed to come on as a guest, and I have what will go down, in my opinion, as the greatest fun fact that I can ever come up with to introduce my wife for. So be on the lookout for that episode. We'll be recording that episode in probably 3 weeks, and then it'll publish a couple weeks after. So it's gonna be fun. She doesn't know what she's in for.
I'm Agent Scott.
And I'm Cam the Provocateur.
And we're from the Spy Hards podcast.
That's right, and you are listening to Pods Like Us, the podcast that also has the Midas touch.
Well, hopefully I'll remember the second point that I need to come back to, but the first point I was going to say was, do you think that your previous non-experience with podcasts, listening to them, has actually made you a bit more natural when you're making the show because you've not got something to base that on, per se?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I don't know. There probably is something to the fact that we're not overthinking it because we didn't have this quote unquote magic formula that needed to be followed or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We're just learning as we go, and hopefully we're getting better every episode. We are getting feedback. Some of it solicited and some of it unsolicited. So, there's that.
So
right?
I would say, Marv, from my perspective, because I've listened to podcasts for a long time, and I wanted to start one, and part of why I haven't was because I've listened to podcasts for a long time, and I've set the bar very high as far as expectations on myself. I have some experience in the space, so I know what kind of work goes into it, and so putting all of that together was part of what held me back and from starting my own and taking that step through that door. I think Mike, what he just expressed, I would back 100%. He didn't know what he didn't know, right? He was totally ready to just say, I'm going to buy a microphone and I'm going to Google how to start a podcast, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's what we did. And so I think Mike's not having sort of immersed himself in that space allowed him to just say, let's go do it, right? I looked it up on the internet.
Yeah, what was the worst that could happen?
I mean, if the podcast crashes, nobody gets hurt. It just crashes. It might be fiery, but we're all going to be okay. So let's just go ahead and start it. And so that, from my perspective, his not having listened to podcasts and really, overanalyzed it allowed him to just do that.
Now, I will say I've listened to a lot since we started, though. I'm really immersed myself in the podcast community.
Which allowed him to look back at ours and be like, holy crap, we did all of that wrong.
I don't know. I mean, the second point I was going to come to was just basically say that I thought that you hit the ground running from the very first, actually. I thought that there was that natural rapport between the both of you that's been there from the very, very beginning of the show, and it stayed there throughout. And it was natural, and that stayed there as well. The fact that it's just that natural, yourselves talking with each other.
Well, that's really kind of you to say, Marvin. And I have to say we've definitely gotten some positive feedback, and I think one of the things that seems consistent, Josh, is our chemistry. People point out that they say that we have good chemistry. So that makes you feel good, right? You're going to have shows where maybe your content isn't, this, or maybe, you have a guest that looks good on paper, but when you get them on camera or audio, you struggle to get out of them what you wanted or whatever. But I think the chemistry is something that we personally can take some degree of pride if that doesn't come across the wrong way. but that that our personalities complement each other really.
And I would agree that that's the biggest thing, is just how we naturally are with each other. I think chemistry is a bit of a heavy word. It sounds pretty serious, like there's some sort of serious commitment here. But I do agree that it has been very natural and easy for us, because this is how we interact, and this is just who we are. And so that's a for sure advantage for us, because we didn't have to work on that part of it. We can focus on other parts of the podcast, other parts of what we do, and make some strides forward that way. Chemistry.
Hey, Marv, what's funny is, so we had a project call yesterday. Yep. We've been working on a project at work, and we had to report to the senior leadership team this project. And so each of the project managers had to report on their piece of the project. So I had to report on my part of the project, right? And so afterwards, Heidi, our boss, she said, you did a really good job, blah blah blah. And I was like, I was really proud of myself, because I told myself going into this, it wasn't a comedy show, right? I need to keep it professional. I need to just stick to work, right? So it's funny, because you kind of blur that line a little bit, because we have fun at work, but there are times where you're not supposed to be the center of the attention when it comes to the project call with the senior leadership team. So you just got to be careful.
I mean, when you're good at something. Might not be the place.
No, it's for sure not.
Hey, it's Gil from the Mind Buzz Podcast. Today's mind culture and social podcast. And you're listening to Pods Like Us.
So, is there any structure to your show at all? Is it just you meet, you talk, and whatever comes out is what comes out?
I would say we have each of our guests have a topic that they're there to promote or talk about or are of interest to us. So we definitely want to make sure that we cover that for them. We usually just, like I said, we start out with those fun facts that leads to some just fun conversation, and then we get into the topic that they want to cover. Josh and I managed to sprinkle in how internationally famous that we are, and we've started now getting actual listener emails. It took me 4 episodes, Marv. I literally berated and begged people to email us, and we're starting to get those emails, and so we're reading those emails and our Apple Podcast reviews on.
And we'd like to thank our moms for submitting those podcasts. That's very sweet of them. Or those emails.
Yeah, exactly. It was very, very nice. It was very nice.
And I would say one of the structures that we have is that our guests a lot of times will have something that we're not familiar with. Right. And so we make a point of asking them about whatever it is. We generally aren't getting experts in our fields or people that align with us. We're finding people that we don't know anything about what you do. So help us understand. And that's super fun for us, because I think part of our chemistry is especially Mike is very inquisitive that way, has a lot of questions of like, how does this work? How do you do this? And it's then the conversation just happens naturally from there.
Yeah, we've got some fun guests coming up. Our next episode that we released is Adam. He builds those foam puppets like the Muppets.
Okay.
And he's been featured on television and film. We have a guest coming up that started one of those companies. I don't know if you have them in your part of the world, where you throw axes at targets as a stress relief. He started one of those companies. So those are 2 recorded. We have one scheduled with Ben out of Australia. He runs a comedy festival, or he runs a portion of the comedy festival in Australia. So that's going to be super fun. I mean, we just, like Josh said, we didn't. So this is what I've learned so far, Marv, and you've nailed it, right? Your podcast should be about kind of a niche thing.
Yeah.
Yours is about podcasts, right? You should be about marketing or business or this or that, right? Ours is not that way, right?
No.
Ours is like shotgun story. It's whatever. it's
Back to Texas.
Whoever will agree to come on our show, right? Yeah, I mean, it's all across the board, and so there's a lot of people that are in these Facebook groups. They're like, "You're doomed, buddy. This ain't gonna work. Enjoy it while it lasts, right? Because that's not sustainable." And I'm like, I hear what you're saying, and it makes logical sense, but we're having fun. Like, we're having fun, and as long as it's fun,
Yep.
we're gonna keep doing it. Now, if we're not having fun and we're not having success, then maybe time to rethink the strategy. But right now, I'm not stopping.
So do you find yourselves now week to week? Will you have like a little notebook now where you'll something will happen and you'll think to yourself, "Oh, I'm going to have to bring that up in the show," and then you just note it down, or do you just leave it to whatever you remember when it comes time to record the show?
I'm gonna let Josh take that.
I don't think I can only speak for myself. I don't notebook anything. I will sometimes jot some notes down before we start a show. And the way it's generally worked thus far is Mike has done far more research ahead of any of our episodes than I do. And I don't know if that works in our advantage or not. In my head, I'm going to say that that's a plus, right? Because then we play off each other. But that's I could be totally wrong on that, and that's just my ego talking. But or not ego, but maybe my self-soothing side, telling me that it's okay that I do what I do. But Mike will do a lot of research into our guest, a lot of research into the topic. He's done a lot of research into podcasting, and I will generally do some amount of research, and I've done more recently, but I would show up with just like a fresh page of, I don't know anything about this person, and I'm waiting to see what they're going to talk about next. Right? What else? Where does that conversation lead us? Where does it go? I'm just going to ask the next question.
Yeah, I would say while our show is definitely not scripted, I definitely come to the show with a plan.
Okay.
Like a backup plan, right? So I want to make sure that I have some kind of idea if the guest stalls out, or if they give a real short answer, that I have a way to keep the conversation moving forward. And one of the best parts, and it's just something that we do naturally, is even if the guest doesn't give us what we want, we can refer to the other host. Like I can ask Josh,
Right.
Josh, what do you think about so and so, right? And I know Josh is going to give me something back to keep the conversation moving forward. But I would say that yes, to answer your question, Marv, there's been things that happen to me throughout the week that I make a note and I say, oh, I'm going to bring that to the show, right? Because the rest of the world needs to know about that, right? That would be selfish of me on my part to keep that to myself. I have to share that with the
And most of the time he's sharing it with me at the same time. He's sharing it with you. Even if it has to do with me and my well-being, he will hold that. So just so everybody's aware, Mike will sacrifice my well-being and feelings just so that he can share it with you at the same time. That's how important the guest is.
It's for the good of God.
But then you get the natural response then in the show, don't you? Which is
Yes, you do.
Which is the thing. Absolutely.
That's exactly right. There's some details that I've spared. I'd like to say I spared Josh, but I spring it on him on air, so to speak, and then what can he do, right? He can't get mad, right?
That's it. I'm leaving my own show. I'm out.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Bosch and where's he gone?
Yeah. Yep. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how do you actually choose the guests then that come on the show? Yeah, I mean, EJ was an interesting one because it's almost like neither of you knew him before the show.
No.
We didn't. So we have subscribed to a couple of what I call podcast dating services. So you go in, you log on, you create a profile.
Podcast near you looking for good
can
chemistry, long walks on the beach.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can promote your show. So we've had a couple of guests reach out to us, say, hey, I think I would be a good fit for your show. But I would say the majority of the guests have been people that I've scrolled through and I'm like, oh, they look like they would be an interesting person to talk to. And what's interesting, Marv, is I haven't had a single person turn me down. Like everybody that I've said to myself, I want to get them on the show. So maybe my sights are at a certain level and I need to bump. I don't know how that works exactly. I don't know what that says. But it's like you. Like I was like, I want to be on Marv's show. So I found out how to contact you. I reached out to you and I'm like, hey, I would like to be on your show, right? I think that would be awesome if you would feature us. And I think I wrote a fairly compelling pitch. What's funny is, this is what's funny. So our last guest that we recorded, the Axe guy. So prior to, I reached out to him in advance and I gave him our pitch. He's like, absolutely, love to it, blah, blah. We worked all the details out. 5 minutes before we start recording, we have like the pre-interview. He's never listened to our show. He's never even listened. He said, he admits to us that he put his profile on this thing and he had like 60 people reply and he only responded back to a couple, which I decided just shows that our pitch was that good, right? That he picked us, never having listened to our show, to come on as a guest. So I thought that was a pretty good compliment.
I think that was great. Yeah. So did you?
I was pretty excited.
So did you get the book free, Mike, or did you have to go out and buy the book?
I actually, you know what's funny is he offered to give it to me for free, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to purchase the book. I did buy it on Amazon. I read, because what's funny is, so being in these groups, there's other people that ask that question, if you're going to have an author on, and a lot of people are like, no, the author needs to provide you the book for free. And they're like, well, do I need to read the whole book? And they're like, no, the author will provide. I read the entire book, page, every word, front to back. And I'm not a big book reader. I don't read for pleasure or whatever you want to call it. But I really did enjoy reading EJ's book. And I think it was a combination of the fact that it was a good book. It was a good story. It moved along really well. But if I'm being fair, there was that excitement of knowing that I was going to be speaking to the author ahead of time. So that, that obviously that played a little bit into it. And he was so much fun to talk to, a good sport all the way around.
Yeah, I thought so too. He, and I find that with a lot of our guests, they don't know anything about us or what to expect. And so when you get somebody like EJ on there and just interacts really well with you and is easy to talk to, and it's really good. And to that point, we've done a few of these where we're on the other side, and initially Mike's like, this is totally weird to not be in control and ask the questions and prep. Because you're the one who's trying to engage the other person, right? And so these are a little bit different for us, but now we have some insight into what our guests go through, and I think that helps us, right? Prepare them of hey, and we always start our podcast out by telling them if there's something that you don't want to talk about, and we ask you, just say, I'm not talking about that. And if we get done recording and you go back and say, that one section when we talked about this, I'd prefer that we take that out, we're happy to edit it out, because we now have a little bit of that insight into sometimes you're not always prepared for what's about to fall out of your face. Now, for us, we're total nonsense, so I think we'll let it fall out of our face and we're okay with that. But some people might not be.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know, with your guests, how has that worked for you?
Yeah, can we edit some of this stuff out, Marv? Some of the stuff that we're not happy with? Like, how does that work? I got some notes of things I wish I hadn't. No, I'm just kidding.
Send them to me with your sound files.
Well, with a free copy of the book.
Yes.
That's funny. But I do think us being on a show as a guest has given us a different perspective that will allow us to be better hosts. For sure. That was a great insight, Josh. That I hadn't thought about, but you're absolutely right.
True.
G'day. This is Matty C from the Astros Fantasy Football Podcast, way down in Australia. And we love getting to listen to Marv meet new podcasters from all over the world here on the Pods Like Us podcast.
So, how do you put the show together and record the show?
Well, so Mike, a lot of times will find our guests, and we'll just work together to get a calendar invite, and then currently what we do is we're using Riverside FM to record. So that's it's built to do basically a Zoom meeting, but it's a unique software that we use to do the recording that bundles everything in one space. And then after that, Mike has been doing our editing at this point. So we'll set it up. We'll start the meeting, and we'll prepare our guest, go through a brief little conversation, make sure that they're feeling comfortable, give them a rundown of how our, we're going to record for about an hour. We're trying to get about 35 minutes worth of good material out of this. We'll edit it down, get them to understand kind of where the roadmap is. We'll do the recording on Riverside, and then Mike takes it and edits it, and he's done a lot of work with understanding the editing process and looking for new tools to help that editing process and really get that stuff laid out. So Mike's done a lot of research and work on that side of it, of the production side. And the recording itself has been an adventure too. I think about Mike went out and bought gear and then plugged it in, and it didn't work, and then he got it to work, and then he bought another microphone for a guest, and that microphone was the wrong kind of microphone, and so he got another microphone and plugged that in, and that didn't work, and then it worked, and then we got a recording. Then we found Riverside, which has made things a lot easier, way easier.
Yeah, we originally thought when we bring guests on, we would have guests in the same room, but the logistic for the audio is getting, you pick up both voices in the one microphone and all that. Now, I will say this: we do have plans, tentative loose plans, to do a live show, Marv. So I'm working to get Josh on board with that. But every once in a while, Josh comes to Texas. And we have a teammate that we work with that is probably as much or more energy than we have, right, Josh? Nathan.
Yes, yeah,
Nathan. Yeah, right. So we have tentatively talked to Nathan, and he's going to come on, and he'll be. We actually, this is my vision. Okay. This is my vision. So
yeah.
While we work together, we talk about what we do. We don't talk about the name of the company on purpose. We want to separate the two things, right? So in case our show goes rogue, they're not whatever, right? We need to keep our day jobs, Marv. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, I envision that we would set ourselves up in the lobby of the Spring House Suites or the Hilton Garden Inn or wherever it is that Josh happens to be staying when he's in town, right? And then we would just invite people to come over, and just imagine this scenario where we're at like the kitchen, in the breakfast area. We'll set up on that table with our microphones and everything, and then just everybody else will drag those chairs up, and we'll have a live studio audience as we record this podcast. Now, we won't broadcast it live, right? We'll record it live, and then we'll later broadcast it. But wouldn't that be fun? I think that would be fun. I think
so, too. And I think our last guest, we had another idea for a potential live broadcast. We quite possibly have a competition coming up between Mike and I, which may include a live broadcast as well. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
When you do the one at the hotel, you could always mention the hotel in the podcast, and then you might get free stay over at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I like your marketing ideas there, Marv. That is awesome.
Maybe we take it one up. Maybe because the company's generally paying for that hotel, maybe we find what we do want a free version of, like a bowling alley, right? A few free games out of the bowling alley, or a restaurant, a free meal, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so our first sponsor. That's basically our first sponsor. We have one actual sponsor, Sweet Kick and Salsa. And they paid us in salsa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They paid us in salsa.
we were happy to take it.
I like that idea, Josh, because I imagine that we would plan this 2 weeks in advance, right? And so we would have time to promote it, and we could even mention it on the previous show. Hey, if you're going to be in town and you want to come see the live show, we'll be recording on X date. I think that would be super fun.
And all 6 of our listeners could show up live. It'd be fantastic.
Dear me. Have you actually looked at the numbers?
They may be few, but they're loyal. They're loyal, Josh.
And yes, Mike has looked at the numbers. He's probably looked at them in the last 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I did, spends a lot.
He probably did that when I lost the signal earlier.
Yeah. He was like, "Where are we at right now?"
Yeah.
So this is fun though, Marv. I got us merchandise. I have coffee cups with our logo, with our clip art on it. I had our clip art redone, and on the back of the coffee cup, I took our Buzzsprout website and I had it turned into a QR code, so you can scan the coffee cup with your phone, and it'll launch our podcast. And so it has the QR code. It says scan with your phone to listen. So I only ordered 5 to begin with, so that was a select number, but I ordered another group, they're in customs now. So our plans are to get one out to everybody who came on our show.
Hopefully customs.
But there's a couple people. I
was going to say, hopefully customs doesn't interact with Instagram, because otherwise we're never seeing those coffee cups.
No. But we did have a couple people ask to buy them. Right, they said I would be happy to purchase a coffee cup and maybe a hoodie, and I was like, I'm not. No, but nobody wants to see that.
Keep it small.
Yeah.
Although it is the cartoonized version of you on the picture,
which I have to have.
It is.
I'm
a
little upset about, because you had it redone. Right, we had clip art that Mike did, and then he wanted to upgrade it, and he had it redone, and he showed me the original version he got back, and then he asked for some revisions, and in the first version, I was wearing a t-shirt and looked quite muscly, and I was very happy with that representation of myself, and then the next one came back and looked just like me.
Well, to be fair, that was not one of the recommendations that I made. That just happened to work out that way. All I wanted him to do was make my head smaller. My head looked like it was 25% too big compared to Josh's head. Our bodies were the same size. So I looked like I had this ginormous head. And maybe that was foreshadowing. Maybe that was like a metaphor for my ego. I don't know exactly, but I had this really big head in the image. So I told I can't think of his name. I told him, I said, you either got to make my head smaller or Josh's head bigger. I don't care which one. They just need to be close to the same size. And I think what happened, to be fair, is Josh has nice hair. And so he was probably just looking at the size of, whereas I have no hair. And so I didn't have that 4 inches of buffer at the top. So my head was just the same size as Josh's head with hair. And the scaling of it just wasn't acceptable, Marv. I had to get it corrected.
Because we're so serious about this.
Exactly.
And I've got serious hair and be now looking at Josh's hair.
It's pretty good, right?
He's got nice hair.
He has.
Yeah.
It's living large today.
Yeah.
My wife loves it when I do this.
Hey, this is Brian with Concerts That Made Us podcast, and you're listening to Pods Like Us, a great show about other great shows.
you've explained how the logo or the picture for the artwork came about. So, what about the music for the show? How did you get hold of that?
So I actually I Googled it. I paid for it, but it was funny because you can Google royalty free music, but it's not free.
No.
I don't really understand how that works exactly. It's close to free. It's cheap and reasonable, but we got it off of a website. I really like it.
It works for us. Yeah.
And I really, really do like it. And while I did replace the clip art, and we will probably redo our intro, because that was one of the very first things that we recorded, and we recorded it separately, and so it's probably it needs to be redone. The audio engineering of it, I think we've gotten a little bit better at than then, and it just needs to be redone. But the music, I really, really, I really like.
Yeah. And in the intro, you're explaining that it's an easy way to spend half an hour and then suddenly you go into an hour.
Yeah. Well, our goal originally was 30 minutes, and then our chemistry is so good that it just it generally goes on.
Well, when you add 5 minutes of commercials in the middle of it too, that really just adds to it.
Really
right?
bulks that show up.
That's true, but it doesn't take away from the show because of the fact that it's you both of you doing the ads.
Yeah,
I know, but what's funny, Marv, is those are fake commercials.
Except for the salsa commercial. The salsa ones are real. Everything else, we just grabbed copy and started reading it.
Yeah, like those companies don't know that we're doing.
At least we don't think so.
We're just, well, yeah, we don't know.
It's a bit like the Who on the Who Sell Out then.
Yeah, what's really funny is, so I don't remember what episode it was. We had the host of a podcast, the Good Gossip podcast, were on our show, and Melissa is in the marketing company, and they admitted to us after the recording was done, the commercials came up. She actually does business with one of the companies that we do a commercial for, and she couldn't figure out how we got paid to do their commercial, and they didn't. And we're like, they didn't pay us anything. In fact, they don't even know we're doing this commercial. I literally Googled free radio ads on the internet, and I came up with a website, and they're just basically like, hey, do what you want to do with these commercials, whatever. And so, we've gotten really good feedback on the commercials. Just this week, the CEO of our company, his boss was in the office, and I've known her for 24 years. She said to me, the Amy's Asian food commercial is my favorite.
Yes.
She goes, it's so creepy sounding, but it's my favorite.
Yes. I love that advert.
She's like, she goes, will you do the line for me? And I was like, from chow mein to lo mein, ask Amy. From Kung Pao to oh wow, ask Amy. It's just like, that's it. That's the line.
Oh.
Yeah.
Welcome.
But they're real companies.
Yeah, that's the bit that I like is when you go from Kung Pao to oh wow, ask Amy.
So as you can see, the focus of our show is really tight, laser focused.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just about having fun. Like I said, at whatever cost, it doesn't matter whose expense, as long as nobody gets hurt, right? Yeah. We're just having fun. What
you need is for people to hear that advert, then go there and say, "Oh, I've come here because of the advert on Josh and Bosch."
I know.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, right? Well, what's funny is, so the Aveda Institute is in and around the Cleveland, Ohio area. And we, every week or every episode, we get a fair amount of listeners that are within a 40-mile radius of Cleveland, Ohio. And neither Josh and I have any other connection that we can think of to that area. So we do suspect on some level they're aware of it. We had the conversation early on about, should we do it? Should we not do it? And I don't remember which one of us. I think it was I think I said, "What's the worst that can happen? We'll get a cease and desist letter." And Josh is like, "That's the greatest thing that could happen, right? Because then we really got out there. And
that means somebody's listening. If they're upset about what we're doing, that means somebody's paying attention." We won.
Yeah, it's like the police going upstairs to the Beatles on the rooftop concert and telling them to stop playing.
Yes, exactly. That means
there's a coolness factor to it.
and you've got somebody's attention.
Absolutely.
And that's us. We're cool. We generally wear black leather jackets while we record our episodes because we're just like the Beatles, really.
I'm gonna start calling you Ringo.
Oh, that's fitting.
I mean, initially I thought that the music that you used actually was self-made, because I know in one or two episodes that Josh has mentioned his musical abilities.
Yeah, and so I have been out of music in general for a while, but maybe that's an adventure we can partake in, future state.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool.
I'm down with that.
Now, it was actually by an artist named Shane Ivers, is the original artist of that clip.
Okay. I did my own because that way I don't have to even make that sort of arrangement, so I did my own music.
Yeah. Well, I paid. It was like $20 or something like that. It's not a lot of money.
Was that just a one-off payment then?
I can only use it for that project. Yep, $20, and I got the rights to use it for the podcast, as many episodes, but I can't use it for another podcast without paying them $20.
That's decent. That's really good. So, making your show, are you in advance with your shows, or do you do it week to week? So you record it and then bring it out the following.
No, we're actually several weeks in advance.
Okay.
Which has its pros and its cons. The good thing is most of our material is not time sensitive. But the other thing is I think, and we need to really think about this, is as a guest, I remember that's the first question I had is, well, when is this going to air? And it sucks when you have to say 8 weeks from now, right? And so I think we've got scheduled for the next 3 weeks, and I think we just won't schedule anything more until we get caught up, and then maybe we'll just do a week or two in advance. I don't want to play it so tight because the editing process takes some time, and you juggle work and all that stuff, and so you want to have one in the bank or whatever. But I think we do need to tighten that.
And that was one of the things that we talked about early on, was how far in advance do we get? Because the one of the worst things that we thought could happen is to not have an episode prepared. Right, we want to have a schedule that our listeners can count on, right? That they can follow. They know that it's coming. They know what to anticipate. And we knew that this was going to be a certain amount of work, and we didn't want to overcommit or undercommit. And so I think there was kind of this underlying fear that we would get to a point where we didn't have an episode ready, and then we were just going to produce something that we weren't happy with. So when we started getting guests lined up and started finding people and started getting a groove with our recording, we thought, well, we're going to keep this going so that we've got stuff that we're good with. And now I think we're getting a little bit more comfortable with not only finding guests, but with the show itself, that makes it easier to be comfortable without that safety net a little bit.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, to pull away the curtain, so to speak, you are the 10th episode that I've recorded for season 3 that starts being released this Sunday coming. So I'm 5 weeks ahead because I release 2 episodes a week. And I wish I didn't have that schedule in a way, because 2 episodes a week is heavy going.
Yeah, it is.
I wish I'd have done a weekly, really.
Hey, Marv, can I step... someone is banging on the thing. Can I step aside for a second? You keep going.
Yep,
Josh.
I got this.
I just
don't worry about it.
Hey there, this is Bobby with the Rock Guys Podcast, and you are listening to Marv Smooth on the Pods Like Us podcast. Check him out.
So now we have to come up with something good when he comes back that we've been talking about. Even if we haven't been talking about it, we have to make sure that we... let's see, what can we talk about? Episode 10, season 3.
I am beginning to wonder about the software that you use to record, and wondering if that's actually more stable than Zoom.
So
Riverside.
It is, and the reason why is because it records locally and then uploads to the website. So instead of you pulling everything off of Zoom right now, it would be recording me on my computer, Mike on his computer, and you on your computer. And so there wouldn't be any interruptions. And then when you stop the recording, all three computers will upload to Riverside without any interruptions, right? And so then it bundles it. So it's significantly more stable. And we've noticed that when we've done our recordings, even if we have, so if your internet continues to go in and out and we can't hear you, when we get the playback, it will have everything you said perfectly. So and I want to say, so the subscriptions allow you a certain amount of time per month. And I want to say we got the 15-hour per month subscription, and it was like $180 a year.
Okay, that is good.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty reasonable. And don't quote me on that. It's been a minute since we subscribed, but and this is all the stuff that we've just been learning while we've been going, right? We didn't know how we were going to record guests, and then you start poking around and Googling and asking questions. And I would absolutely love to start a podcast with you, Marv. I think the two of us have a great dynamic that we could really take this places.
I leave for 2 minutes and you steal my co-host? What kind of nonsense is that?
We were talking about Riverside and the pluses to it, and how it would have been better if I'd have used Riverside, to be quite honest, I think.
Yeah, so we were talking about how internet interruptions, because we had some of that with EJ, but because it uploads, you still capture everything. Right. The only thing you have to worry about then is the gaps, right? Because if we still can't hear what you're saying, we might not react the same way. But whatever you said will still be captured. So if you're in the middle of a story and you're telling it and we don't have to react, we can still use that material, even though we're not maybe picking up all of it.
Yeah.
And we ran into the same trouble with Todd and Melissa. Melissa, her thing completely dropped. And what's funny is, and I don't even know if I told you this, when I got the recording back, it recorded her the entire time. Like, I listened to it to make sure, I made sure she wasn't bad mouthing. If you could hear her clicking on a keyboard, going, "What's going on? What's going on?" She's like clicking on her keyboard. It recorded her the entire time because it was doing that local recording onto her computer. It was pretty funny. I was kind of hoping she badmouthed us, but then I was glad she didn't. You know, have you ever been in that situation? You were like, "What's she's gonna say?" But no, she would never do that.
She's great.
A nice
and if you listen to their podcast, you'd know that their podcast is all about sharing good gossip. Right, when somebody's talking good things behind your back, that's good gossip, and it's a really innovative, great idea.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
I mean, when I did the show with Bad Council, when I had them on as guests, they actually hosted the show themselves with Riverside, as opposed to me being in charge and using the Zoom.
Oh, sure.
So that was my first experience with it. And then when I got all the files from Tim, who does all their editing, I was amazed, because there were some cutouts here and there. And like you said, all the different files were absolutely perfect when I got them, and it was surprising. Really.
Yeah, we've been happy with it thus far.
I think some of the stuff that we've continued to learn, though, is when you record in Riverside has the opportunity to add some effects or do some editing, and if you do any of that, then you put it into whatever software you're using for the editing. Do you use the same effects, or do you leave it alone? Do you apply the effects to all of the people? Or, and Mike has been managing that, but, just through conversations we've had, you kind of have to find that formula and then don't touch it, right? Don't change it. Whatever effects you're using, use those and keep it consistent.
Yeah.
So I've just done.
We are looking for an audio engineer, though. If you're out there listening and you're like, oh, I could make those guys sound like those movie star voiceovers, or at least if you could help my voice. Josh already has that pretty good dynamic voice. But if you're like, boy, I could get rid of that high-pitched squeak that Mike Bosch has, and I work cheap, go ahead and email us at totalnonsense with Josh and Bosch.
I'd take a jar of salsa to make that happen. We've got your hookup.
Do you want me to see if I can get you to sound like Josh Brolin when he did Thanos?
Ooh.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Now I have the glove. So, what podcast do you both listen to, Mike?
So, I listen to two regularly podcasts. So I listen to Smartless, which is Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes.
Yeah.
And then I listen to Armchair Expert, which is Dax Shepard. I just because it is kind of conversational, and like everybody else in America, I'm obsessed with popular culture and famous people, right? But what I did recently, I joined a Facebook group for that. There's a podcast the same name. It's called Grow the Show, and I drive 2.5 hours a day.
Okay.
And so you're not supposed to promote your own show necessarily. So I just put a post in there like, hey, I have a 2.5 hour drive. I'm all caught up. Send me your favorite episode of your podcast, and I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
And so I had, 15, 16 people send me the links to their podcasts. And so I listened to, I think I have one or two left. So I've been listening to just a collection of different things. And then some really good stuff out there, right? And it just really interesting to learn about what people are interested in and all that. And then, of course, if we have somebody on, or if we're going to be on somebody's show, I try to listen to that podcast as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I told Josh. I hope he isn't hearing this for the very first time. But I was a guest on a podcast last night. And so I listened to that podcast, 3-4 episodes of that podcast prior to, so that I kind of had an idea of what to expect, what I was getting myself into. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, because otherwise it might be a case of like somebody appearing on Saturday Night Live and never knowing what Saturday Night Live was.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And then suddenly like, oh, this is what it is. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Exactly. So what about you, Josh? I don't know that we've talked about that. What do you listen to? What, besides our show, which I know you listen to, you have it on repeat, but when you're
I'm actually most of our downloads. Now Mike is finding out things for the first time. So I have a few favorites that I listen to. One is called Make Me Smart.
Yep.
Which they mix up their weekly schedule, but it's always just a live format. It's a daily episode, and they try and keep it 15 minutes on most of their days. They do have one of their days that they go 30 minutes. They go a little bit longer, but it's another one where it's two hosts who have really good chemistry, work together really well. And so I listen to that one almost daily.
Yeah.
Other ones that I like are Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History. Incredible storytelling, and the content is really, really great. It's not just your normal current event, news, cycle type of thing, but it is very, very, very well put together. So I listen to that one regularly. And then another one that I listen to is Adam Grant, who's been a little bit spotty in what he puts out, because sometimes he's focused on other things and the podcast doesn't get produced at the same rate. But he does a great job of just kind of going off in directions and connecting some dots, and does a really good job again with the storytelling and the connections, and find myself drawn to those types of podcasts a lot. That said, I listen to a ton of different podcasts too. I listen to Smartless and Dax Shepard's, tons of podcasts very regularly.
Yeah, and Heidi assigns us a lot of like the TEDx,
TED Talks,
and how we built this. Guy Raz is really good, like how we built this and stuff like that. I actually, I think Josh and we've talked about this. I want to be on a TEDx. I want to do a TEDx. I've got my sights on it. I just have to figure out what my topic is. But I did look up. They host them in South Lake, Josh, which is like I don't know, 20 minutes from here. So I have it on my radar. So if you're out there and you're like, Mike Bosch, I can just tell this would be a great topic for you. Just shoot them over to me. Help me out, and because I want to.
I'd love to do one too. I think that kind of thing I think is super fun, super interesting to listen, and I think Ted's got a great format. Right, there are lots of individuals that come up and tell their thing. Another one that I like to listen to is the Moth Radio Hour, which is regular people who tell a story, and what happens is they'll go to basically these same kind of small events and they'll tell their story, and if their story is good enough, the Moth will coach them and bring them to a larger event to tell their same story. And so they get a little bit of coaching, and it's clear that they're not professionals. This is not what they do, but they have been coached enough to get to a certain level of quality. And it's so much fun because you can genuinely hear that these are not people who are hosting some sort of show every week. They're not in front of audiences all of the time. Some of them you can just tell that they're just normal people telling their story in front of a live audience. And it's great. I love that one too.
Yeah, but when you speak to people who aren't, shall we say, celebrities, or are just the ordinary people on the street, they're more interesting in a way, and they're more open, because you'll find that if you speak to a lot of, say, celebrities that you have on shows, they will have a specific thing that they're trying to plug. They will have a certain way. They'll have certain stories and anecdotes that are already hardwired into them that they will come out with. And it's very difficult to get them to be natural, whereas an ordinary person, it's easier to just get them to suddenly come out with something that they never expected to come out with. I think celebrities can be a bit too reserved in that way.
Yeah, very calculated.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And we've talked about that before, right, Josh? I think the average person is so funny,
absolutely,
and so smart. And I never thought about it, but you're right, Marv, because celebrities have to be so careful of what they say because whatever, blah blah blah. The average person, like. We went through a moment in time. I don't say it as much anymore, right, Josh? But I would say, how did it go? Every time I open my mouth, I'm prepared to be wrong. Like it just, you just gotta whatever, right? Whatever, because you never know when the next genius statement, right, is going to be said.
Especially from Mike, it happens constantly.
Yeah.
Well, now that you've got the show, you can listen back to the show so that you can remember those.
I know
those points of brilliance where you go, yes, that's it. That's where. That's
Marv, don't feed the beast. Don't feed into what he's selling.
I love this, Marv. I think I just need a daily affirmation from you every day. That's what I need. I'll send you my text my cell phone and just text me compliments.
I'll come on your show and I'll just say things like that all the way through for an hour.
Oh, booked. You're booked. What day are you available?
Hello, everybody. This is Ryan.
This is Avery.
And we are from the Frame by Frame King Crimson podcast. And you are listening to Pods Like Us.
So, what advice would you both give to people starting a podcast for the first time?
My advice would be find a partner like Mike. and I mean that sincerely. And a lot of times, and so maybe not Mike, but find somebody who compliments you or who supports you in what you're doing. Now, maybe that's not even necessarily a co-host. Maybe that is somebody who will do the editing, somebody who will help you find guests, somebody who just believes in what you're doing and what you want to accomplish. Could be a significant other, whoever. Find somebody that will help you take that step forward, because that was one of the biggest challenges I had, was just taking that step forward. And I knew that I needed somebody to help me with that. And I was really fortunate that Mike and I just aligned on this. But that would be my advice. Find somebody who will support you and who compliments you, and start taking some steps forward.
Yeah, and I would say, don't think you have to have everything figured out. Like, no matter, and this is what I found in life, is no matter how well I think I thought and I planned, things don't go the way you think it's going to go, right? So just do it. Just get enough of the process down to where you can take that step forward, and learn the rest of it as you go, right? It's not, like Josh said earlier, nobody's going to get hurt, right? Just do it. Know that you'll do better the next time, and then just work on continuous improvement. Be prepared to accept critical feedback, right? If you really do want to get better. Like, there's a lot of people that you just tell me all the good stuff, and that's great, but that's not going to make us better. Like, we don't want to hear the bad stuff, but we need to hear the bad stuff so that we can improve upon it, right? So I would just say, don't worry that you don't have everything figured out. Just go for it. It's too much fun.
And eventually you're going to have something that doesn't fully work out, and you just got to move past it, right? Whatever that is. And we've been super fortunate so far, but at some point you might not get an episode published when you want. You might not have a guest lined up, or the guest you have lined up doesn't work out, or we've struggled with that a little bit of, okay, what are we going to do next? And just keep going and take that next step.
Yep.
Josh has just preempted what I was about to ask then as a response to what he said, which was, so when you do have moments where guests might not be available when initially they were, do you naturally then just decide to do a show between yourselves and just freeform a show together?
I think we were prepared to do that because that was originally the plan to begin with. I think the thing that we may run into more trouble is Josh and our own calendar, right? And so I've got vacation, Josh has got vacation, and then so you're trying to coordinate 3 and then a guest, and so what do you do? What do you do there? I'm just going to go on record and say, Josh, I'll be very hurt if you record without me. No, but I think there's always, so that's one of the advantages of having 2 or 3 episodes already recorded, is you can work around that. But as we move forward, I do think we're in at a bit of an advantage to where I think the 2 of us could talk for 45 minutes about the nonsense that we run into every single day. And I mean, our pilot episode is still our most highly downloaded episode. Now I don't know what that means exactly, because somebody checked out our pilot episode and didn't sign up for the second episode. So maybe my logic and theory is not as sound as I thought it was there. But I think we could handle that.
I was just when you mentioned that about Josh on his own, I'm thinking, or without you, I was thinking, I can just picture it now, Josh doing one and then coming out with a fake voice for another character and basically having all these different characters that Josh is going to have on shows.
That would be
Who needs
funny.
guests? Just alter your voice.
Or you could just find another person named Mike. Well, no, I guess it's my last
It's
name.
the last name, isn't it? It doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm my brother. I had two brothers.
Yeah. Are they funny?
Fill in for me.
Oh, they're out. I'll keep looking.
No, not at all.
What you need is a Scottish person named Tosh, maybe.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Then you could have Josh Bosch and Tosh.
All right.
Josh Bosch and Tosh. I like that. Oh, maybe we could reach out to Daniel Tosh. I don't know if his show's still on Comedy Central. That would be fun. He's a funny guy.
That's a good idea.
He'll probably it'll have to be Tosh, Josh, and Bosch because he'll want top billing, I'm sure, but it'd be only fair.
That's true. Yes, he's the big star then, isn't he?
For the moment.
Yeah. So, for now. You two are on your way up now. I think you'll be overtaking him in no time.
Very quickly.
Just like EJ said the other week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you and get hold of you?
So we are available on all of the podcast outlets. So anywhere that you listen to podcasts, it's Total Nonsense with Josh and Bosch. You can reach out to us via email at Total Nonsense with Josh and Bosch. Those are all letters have to be spelled
Don't miss
out
any.
at gmail.com.
And we wonder why we don't get very many emails.
It's about the commitment, right? You got
there's 67 characters in our email address.
all the letters are represented. We do have a Facebook page, Total Nonsense with Josh and Bosch. Our Instagram account is in is on hold or in lockdown right now. But when it comes back up, and I'm hopeful and prayerful that it will.
Okay. And you can find me, Pods Like Us, on all social networks just by looking up Pods Like Us. And if you go to the marvzone.org, there's a contact section there for you to get in touch with me. Anyway, thank you very much for talking with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
This was great. A blast.
It was.
So much fun.
It was great. I can't wait to be on your show now.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're gonna work that details out because I need that affirmation, Marv. Just remember, you came on. You said you were gonna come on and talk about how great I was for the entire hour. Remember who does the editing, Marv. Remember who does the editing.
That's true. I might need an editor. So I can just picture Josh leaving halfway through the show, actually, and just going, right, I've had enough of this now.
This is too much. I'm out.
This is just too much. Too much. You're feeding his ego too much.
And he wonders why the coffee mug already had his head bigger. It's like the artist already knew.
That's why Marv wants to come on the show. He wants a coffee cup.
I do want to.
That's fair.
They're limited edition. I actually took black fingernail polish that my wife gave me, and I numbered each one of them, so they're numbered in order. So.
And I got number 5. I don't even know how that's...
So my wife got number 1, and then I gave Heidi and Ty 2 and 3, and then I gave my mom, who is probably our number 1 fan. I mean, my number 1 fan, I guess. I don't know how that works. I gave her 4. I don't even have one. I gave you number 5. I don't even have one.
Your mum is always the number 1 fan.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
And that's what I told him. I told him his wife and mom can have number 1 and 2. I'm fine with that, but
we'll get one for your mom.
All right, great. She'll want one.
Anyway, thank you everybody for listening, and hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us. Ooh, blimey. It tells me it's recording. Ba, 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 ba.
Marv?
Hello, I'm here. Oh, Josh is here as well.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Perfect.
Let's see. I'm in a different room. I'll see if I get better video in here than I do somewhere else, shall we?
Yeah.
Even though there I am.
Yeah, there you are.
With a fake background. Oh, dear me. How is everybody? How are you both?
There's Josh.
There's Josh.
Hello, hello.
It's Josh and Bosch.
Hello. I don't know about Josh, but I'm doing great today, Marv.
That's good to know. I'm going to turn the volume down on this because I'm used to very quiet people.
Am I coming in hot?
You always are, Mike.
I know.
Oh, dear.
But so the big question, Marv, you didn't answer is how are you today?
Oh, okay. I am fine. Yes.
Nice. Is this the end of your day or the beginning of your day?
Normally, I would be starting work very soon. But tonight is a night off, which is always good.
Gotcha. I'm really struggling with the time zone conversions. I love the fact that the internet and technology has opened us up to the entire world, but I'm trying to coordinate a couple of people in Australia, and I'm not even sure we're talking about the same date half the time.
That's true. Yes.
You have to be really careful about that.
I've said it many times. I actually did a show where I had one person from China and another person from Arizona.
Oh, that would be a logistical nightmare for me. I couldn't handle that.
No.
I'm gonna schedule the person in China for tomorrow. The person in
Arizona
for yesterday. Yeah.
Then you get into that whole space-time continuum. And next thing you know, Biff's got the sports almanac and the whole world's turned upside down.
Yes.
Options
Depending on if Mike gets his way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've just had a drink brought to me.
There you go. That is awesome.
Not enough whiskey. Thank you.
Next time.
It's a cup of tea, of course, because it's England. Cup of tea.
That's funny.
So how are you doing with the show then? Is it going full steam ahead?
So it's funny. We've been learning as we go, right,
Yep.
Josh?
Yep.
We started we released our first episode in March. We started pre-production mid-January or whatever. We really didn't know what to expect. We are, Josh and I, while we have a lot of similarities, I think we have some differences, and we've talked about it before. We're focused on different things. I am a numbers guy, and I'm all about the numbers, and I get so excited. But I don't know really what to compare it against because we've never done this before. And so I joined a couple of Facebook groups dedicated to podcasting, and you get the gamut of the people who are like, I'm only getting 10 episodes a download. What am I doing wrong? To the people saying, well, I'm getting 1,000 downloads in the first day. This isn't that difficult. I don't know what you're struggling with. Right. And so you don't really know how to judge where you are, but I'm really, really proud of the fact that we have been heard in 21 different countries.
Yep.
I don't know if Josh, you want to share your theory on why you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you look at the countries that we're in. I mean, we're big in Malaysia, and we've been heard in Turkey. I'm quite certain that they're just using our podcast to teach other people English as a second language. Like, listen to these two knuckleheads, and you'll pick something up useful that you'll be able to use in your travels. That's my theory. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's not proper English; it's conversational English, right? Which is really what that's the value in it, right? Is you want to be able to go to a country and really speak the language, not stand out like a sore thumb
and that's
because
what
you're
we
using
do
the
for
correct
them.
pronunciation.
Yeah.
We provide that value.
That's true. Have you seen that video where who is it? Bradley Cooper was interviewed in France for a French television program, and they started speaking to him in American, and then he was saying, "Oh no," he says, "You don't have to. You can speak in French." He says, "I'll be okay." And so they started. They went into French, and he was responding absolutely perfectly, fluent. And then at the end, the French presenter actually said to him, "Wow, that was really good. You're very good at French. How did you learn French?" And he said, "Oh, I spent a summer holiday here, just as a talk. Just and I think he went to a college and university or something in France for 6 months, and he became fluent in 6 months just from talking." Without actually being taught French, he learnt it just by speaking with the French people over 6 months of living in France.
I've got a feeling, though, that Bradley Cooper is probably on a different plane than a lot of us. Like, I could spend 6 months and even focus my best on learning French from just speaking it. And I don't think I'm that guy. I don't think I can make that happen. Like, people would be shouting French at me, and I wouldn't be able to pick it up. I'd be like, "Yell it louder! I don't understand."
Yeah. People would definitely be shouting at you, Josh, for sure. I can visualize that right now. You got the baguettes and the beret on your head, and they're like, ah. But I have heard that, Marv, before, where they say the best way to learn a language is to really immerse yourself in the situation, and you have no choice, right? Different than listening to tapes or trying to read it in a book or whatever, but that's definitely the way to go. So that's the value that we bring. We're immersing people in Malaysia and Pakistan and Turkey and all of those countries in the nonsense that we put out.
You're welcome.
And yeah, you're definitely welcome. And the best part about it is they're getting different contexts, because I'm from Texas, which we speak a different dialect of the English language as well. And Josh is north. He's almost to the Canada border. He probably speaks a little bit more proper English than I speak. We have a lot of sayings and terms that we use where I live.
I have to watch what I say when I'm speaking to Americans or anybody from another country, because I might use a colloquialism, and then I'll be asked I'll be pulled up on it, and they'll say, "Oh, what does that mean?" And I'm thinking, okay, so now I've learned to watch what I say now, so that those moments don't appear.
Yeah.
We should have done all this conversation actually in the show recording itself when it starts, really. But
it's all good. It's a good pre-context.
It is. It'll be nice for the post show.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's the bonus content.
Yes,
Josh?
I put the bonus chat in afterwards that we chat before or after show. I put that in after as well.
Yeah.
After the music.
Well, we were on for a little bit, and I did see that you were sharing little clips of our show. I messaged Josh, and I was like, "Oh my God, he shared a clip of our show." It was pretty exciting.
I've got some from episode 6 as well to put up, but I've not put them up yet. But
gotcha.
Yeah, episode 6. That was
the author.
That was a brilliant one. That author, he was great.
Yeah.
Mr. Findorf.
Findorf.
Yep.
Yeah. Good memory.
Yeah, super nice guy.
Bullets.
And I really did like that book. It was a really good book. Looking forward to his new book. Should be out, I think, the end of the week.
Yes, the new book where he's hoping that the main character will be played by Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. That's exactly right. He's still thinking about the idea that I pitched him, though. We're in contract negotiations for my book.
Long negotiation.
I put in my blog that I'm just waiting for your book to come out, Mike. I really am. Yeah.
You should have seen the look on his face, though, as I was explaining that story.
Yeah, he was completely dumbfounded.
I don't know who was more baffled, him or Josh. They're like, "What are you doing?"
It needs to be a video cast just to see his response.
Yeah.
It was funny.
So better do this officially, hadn't we? Do the whole intro and everything. So it's Joshua. Is it Rodhe?
Rodhe.
Rodhe.
Yep.
Joshua Rodhe and Mike Bosch.
That's it.
There you go.
Between Mike and Josh would be right here on our team meeting, and that's pretty much it, right? This is.
Oh, we lost him. We scared him off.
Yeah.
He's like, these guys are knuckleheads. I'm out.
I can't.
He did the classic. And have you ever done this to somebody? You're on a cell phone, and the conversation is not going where you want it to go, and you're like, I can't. What was that? I'm hearing every other word, and then you just hang up and you don't answer the phone. Have you ever done that?
I have not done that.
I've done that. Oh yeah, I've for sure done that. For sure done that. You're just like, this is not the conversation I want to have right now.
I will, when I get a second call, be very quick to be like, oh, gotta take this.
Yeah.
But I won't make up anything.
Oh no. Yeah, I'll totally fake the bad sales service.
Oh man,
that is too funny. I think we lost him. He's not coming back. We'll just finish the show. So Josh, how to tell Marv's listeners, and Marv can listen back to it later on. But tell Marv's listeners what our original premise was going to be.
Well, so the recording stopped.
No, but we got our.
We're recording.
Yeah, we got our local recording. We'll just provide him some super quality.
Just keep going.
We'll provide him some quality.
I'm back.
We went ahead and continued without you, Marv. We
recorded a whole other episode.
We got like five. We got like 5 good minutes in there.
That's brilliant. That's great. That's episode 8 then. I think that's done.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Squeezed it in.
Dear me. Where did we go? Where were we?
Josh was talking about the teams meetings.
Yep. So you're on about the team meetings then, which included your previous guest.
Yeah. Art. Yep.
So, how was that? Was there anything that we missed, or do you think we've done fine there?
No, I think that was great.
I think it was great.
I gotta be honest, Marv. I was super impressed with your knowledge of our podcast.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
Well, I've listened to all 6 episodes in 3. Well, the first 6 episodes in 3 weeks.
So let me ask you this. In all honesty, you do a show about podcasts. We're not recording anymore. We shut it off. What do we need to do different? Like, if you were to give us critical feedback of this is what you guys need to work on, what would you say that would be?
I can't really think about anything. I mean, you're already changing the format every now and again by having guests on, and the fact that you're talking about different subjects because they're naturally just coming out, I think that makes it interesting already. And you have the natural chemistry between you both as friends, where you're just talking about whatever, like you said, nonsense comes to your head at that moment. So I can't really think of anything, if I'm being quite honest.
Okay. Well, if you think of something, please let us know, because it like if there is something that we need to do differently, I would rather know about it and work on improvement than be blind to it. Right, Josh?
Yep, I agree. And that was independent podcasters, you said?
Once, like I said, I'll just invite you into that group anyway, and you'll just suddenly appear in a group.
Okay, cool.
It's like a chat. You know how you have private chats, direct messaging on Instagram? You can actually choose multiple people to direct message with. So I think there are 12 people in there in total in the group.
Mm-hmm.
I think I ought to bring you two both on separately in the next season and talk about your other shows.
All right.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. So,
But we're both committed, though. We're having too much fun with total nonsense. We're not going to stop. We're not going to stop that.
Right. Yep.
So I forgot to ask during the show. So, is it a constant thing then with total nonsense, or are you going to have a break and do seasons?
That's probably something we should have talked about up at some point. I didn't know to ask that question, so I think we were just planning on running it straight through, right, Josh? I mean, are we going to take a break? I mean, how's that work?
I would think at this point, we would run it straight through, and if we needed a break to focus on our other podcasts, we'd probably just share that with our listeners and say we're going to take 2 months off, or whatever that is. Because I think so far we're pretty committed to just the ongoing cycle, not necessarily the season version. And considering our topic, I think our listeners would probably be okay potentially us taking a break and just communicating that. But I think at the moment we're committed to just continuing to go forward.
Yeah, and I think
go on.
No, I think at the more we do it, the easier it has become. Like you get your kind of template of even your editing process, and so like Josh had mentioned, I've got the settings, so now I know how to apply the settings pretty easy, and so I think I have a one pass where I edit for content, and then I come back and then I edit and kind of blend the conversations together, cut all the filler words and the pauses and stuff like that, and so. I think we're getting better, and it's not taking us much time.
Anyway, I'll let you both get on now, and thank you for that, and I'll catch you again soon.
Sounds
well, thanks,
good.
Marv.
Thank you.
You've got my email address anyway, so you can send me the files anyway.
Yeah. Yep. They may be too big to send directly, so we may have to put them on Google Drive or whatever, Google whatever thing, and then send you the link to that.
Yeah, I've got Google Drive. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Thank you,
Thanks,
Josh.
Marv.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.